Chapter 1. The Supreme Being. Tomb of Nazarick. In the great Tomb of Nazarick, things were quiet for the most part in the main chambers of the one known as Ainz. He was sitting in his chair going through some paperwork that Sivas had just handed to him not too long ago. Ainz was an undead skeleton lord. He is known as a wizard-class warrior who was known to use some of the most powerful spells in the entire world with ease. He was even capable of becoming a warrior-class fighter when he used one of his spells known as Create Greater Object. This allowed him to bypass his problems in his wizard state and take a more weapon-based look. His outfit as a skeleton wizard was less bulky than it used to be compared to. He decided to shrink the size of his robes and make it out to be about where it just covers his basic body and doesn't have large shoulder pads. From there he had two glowing orbs on his shoulders where his pads ran over. His eyes were dark red and glowed with immense power, and next to him was the golden staff of the great Ainz on gown, which was considered one of the strongest objects in the world. Ainz was busy these days doing stuff that didn't really interest him anymore. He had defeated the great slain theocracy, recruited powerful warriors to his side, and defeated all the major kingdoms, leading to him ruling the lands without an equal in sight. Sadly, after doing this he grew tired of sitting around and doing nothing while at the same time having no one to fight him anymore. From his perspective, things were annoyingly simple and he wanted something different to happen. He wanted someone to fight or some new place to conquer and destroy. The doors to his office had a knock and he looked up. "Come in." The doors opened and entering the room was a black-haired man wearing a red and white suit and with pointy ears. He had a black tail behind him and glasses that covered his diamond eyes that were hidden underneath. "Demiurge, what can I do for you?" The man smiled while adjusting his gloves on his hands. "Well, I was wanting to warn you about." The tomb started to shake from explosions coming from one of the main floors. "They are at it again, aren't they?" The man smiled and nodded his head. "Yes, from what I gathered they are fighting over who will be the main wife in your life, sir. But I'm curious about something if you wouldn't mind." asked Demiurge. Ainz had an idea what this was about but wanted to be sure. "Well, I was wondering, why haven't you tried for a child yet, my lord? This would help all of us by giving the girls something to keep them occupied and keep us from having to repair the tomb all the time." Ainz sighed. "If I could, Demiurge, I would, but the problem being an undead, I do not have a penis." "So that means," Ainz nodded his head. "Yes, I can't have children of my own." Demiurge pushed his glasses up. "I see, my lord, thank you for sharing that with me. It shows your trust in me and I appreciate it." Ainz nodded his head and asked, "So who is it this time though?" "From what I saw, it was Albedo, Shaltir, and Zessie that were all fighting, with the maids staying out of the way for the most part. Cocytus is watching to make sure they are stopped when necessary, and so is Victim." "I see." Ainz remembered the day Zessie came into the tomb. He had defeated her years ago when the slain theocracy was formed, and from that defeated the strongest in this world. Upon doing so, the lowly was obsessed with becoming his wife and having his child, but the other girls wanted it first, so they fought her for this right. Compared to them, it was an even fight for all sides, and he was seeing the wars getting worse over time. Before Ainz could head down to the lower floors and fix the problem, he felt something in the room that was otherworldly. "Demiurge, to my side now." The demon didn't know what was bothering his master, but he quickly appeared next to him. "Be ready, we are about to have some guests from outside this world." "What, but how, my lord? The tomb is protected?" "By all other means, yes, but not by God's." Out of thin air came a skeleton-like being that had a dagger in its mouth floating in the air. Next to it was a woman in a white robe that was covered in a magical light, and next to her was a floating old man with ripple eyes and a black staff. "Who are you? You should know us, Ainz, after all you were from our world at one time." Demiurge could sense it. Compared to the tomb, these three were on another level, but compared to Ainz they were still weaker. This meant that the supreme beings were stronger than the gods of the worlds. "I do not know what you are speaking of, but I think I know who you two are, except for the old man, Kami and Shinigami." The two gods smiled and the old man smiled. "My child, my name is Hagoromo, or in your former life the Sage of Six Paths, but you know that story, right, Naruto?" Ainz flared his full aura, forcing the gods to back up and bringing the entire tomb to his side, with all of them ready to fight. "Who are you?" asked a woman with black hair and horns on her head. Her golden eyes were glaring at the beings that dared to stand before her beloved Lord Ainz. "How dare you address our master in such a way?" A small girl with large breasts and wearing a dark red dress and umbrella had her eyes glowing against the three beings before them. A blue ice beetle man was staring them down and was ready to fight if they made a single move against them. Two dark elf twins were readying their weapons for fighting, and next to them were the maids with their weapons. A small pink, white, and black hair lolicon with a two-headed scythe was standing there with a psychotic look in her eyes that were introverted from each other. Even the butler, an old-looking man missing one of his eyes, was glaring down at the women in front of them. "We apologize. How do you know my old name? No one, not even my brethren, knew that name. I forgot that name for a reason, and now you are here to drag it back out again. How dare you? Give me one reason not to destroy all three of you." The gods knew it, this was a bad sign, and he was not happy. More importantly, he didn't want to remember his past as one Naruto Uzumaki. "Lord Ainz, who is Naruto?" Turning to Albedo, he sighed. It was time for them to know the truth of his birth. "That was my human name when I was first born. I was a human that had the power over what is called chakra. It is a mixture of spiritual and physical energy that can do things similar to magic. However, I was the container to a powerful demon at the time." "Really? You were human, my lord?" Gammon and the others were starting to put things together. Lord Ainz was always softer to children, humans, and those that earned his favor. They never knew why, but it was a sign that there was a part of his past he was still attached to and didn't to happen to someone else. They realized that when they spoke ill of humans it was insulting their lord, and they would have to repent for that in the future. "Yes, I was, and with the demon in my stomach, I was hated and treated like garbage. Sadly, my parents died to protect the village and seal the monster away into me to save all of them. They spat on their memory, and the only people that really cared about me were the former leader of the village and a woman I met many years ago. She was a cursed child as well, always treated like garbage at all times of the day. From those times I was beaten, starved, and overall neglected for everything. I managed to make friends and allies over time, but this led to me finally having the mission that would end my life. I was tasked with bringing back a traitor who ran out of our village to the person who killed the man who was my grandfather in the village. I managed to get to him and defeat him in battle with some major injuries, but before I knew it, my former teacher saw me and kicked me into a deep ravine that left me to die from the impact and injuries I suffered from. Shortly afterward, I saw the demon disappear inside of me, and soon I was reborn. This was where I was able to meet the ones who became my family and gave me the rank as the supreme being and ruler of the tomb of Nazarick. Yes, Naruto, and we are deeply sorry in letting this happen to you. We never saw that everyone in the village would do something like this to you. Yes, who would have guessed everyone was in on your death in that mission other than Am and Anko?" Turning to Kami, she explained, "When you died and it was confirmed, Am found out her father was using the stand to weaken you and kill you in the end. She hated her father for doing this and eventually left in the middle of the day and went to Spring, where she is known to be a famous cook there, working extensively in expanding her franchise. Koyuki has protected her from Konoha and has even threatened to bring the other nations into a war with them if they continued to harass them after losing their alliances. Anko, on the other hand, left her headband behind and was gone. No one knows where she is and where she ran off to. We know for a fact she is hiding out in Spring and is working for Koyuki as her counterintelligence agent and the person in charge of torturing the spies that are there as well." "Interesting, but what does this have to do with me?" Hagoromo came forward. "Naruto, you were meant to save this world and free them from the chains of darkness that binds it. But sadly, this death was the catalyst for me to see everything I did was wrong. It is time for the age of shinobi to end and the rise of a new era to begin." "I see, but I'm not returning to that world. I have nothing there worth fighting for and refuse to be some kind of savior to them." "Not even if we promise you something in trade?" Shinigami was the one offering this time, and Ainz narrowed his eyes at him. "What are you offering?" The others were about to voice their disapproval, but they saw Ainz was serious about the offers, so they stayed quiet instead. "We are offering you the freedom to do as you choose with the world, freedom to kill whoever you please, and we can finally give you the one thing you always wanted. A body to have children with." "How you mean Lord Ainz couldn't have children now?" The women were horrified when Demiurge confirmed this, and they were crying tears of never knowing what sex would be like with their leader. "A human body is nice, but my question is, what else would the body come with?" Hagoromo held up a set of eyes and they looked like his own, but they had the Sharingan tomatoes in them, and they were spinning slowly. "These are known as the Rincharingan. They are the most powerful eyes in the world, and only I have them. My mother had one in her forehead, but these are the only complete set in existence. If you do this for us, not only will your tomb come with you, freedom to do as you please, and a human body, but I will give you these eyes to use all the forms of chakra possible." Ainz thought it over, and after finally wanting to see some of his old allies and friends again, he said, Fine, but we also want some immunity from chakra. Kami nodded and waved her hand and they all glowed. You are all now immune to illusions and mind control and can ignore jutsus up to about S-class, which is about 6th tier magic in your terms. Fine. Ainz turned to his followers. My guardians, we now have a new land to explore and conquer. I expect you all to help me in succeeding in taking this world as my own. Albedo smiled and all bowed to him. We swore our loyalty to you, our lord. We are to follow you everywhere you go. We promise that we will be at your side in this time of a new dawn. The rest gave a similar response and now we're ready for war. Turning to the mains said. Let's get this over with. The two gods nodded their heads and said. We are really sorry for everything, Naruto. We hope for the best in the future. With a bright light, they were gone from this old world and left it in the hands of the humans that were left. Land of Yuzu. Ainz, arriving in his old world, saw that they were in the land of Whirlpool or Land Yuzu. This is the land of his former ancestors, and he was excited to finally get his ancestors' old country back into working order. After seeing the landscape of the whole place already started the guardians on making sure they were well protected and had means to counter anyone that would come their way. But one of the Pleiades noticed Ainz had changed. Lord Ainz, your body. Everyone turned to see Ainz the skeletal being replaced with a human body, but it was darker than they thought it would be. His skin was the same tone as he was originally human, but his eyes were deep red with 2 black rings in them. He stood a foot taller than everyone in the room and had dark gray hair that was spiked. His fingers were like claws, with he even wearing a dark black and gray robe that hid most of his body. How, what do you know? Better than my original human body, no? Naruto sensed around and felt his chakra was back. But he could not access his magic at all, making him scratch his head. So it would seem I can only use chakra in this form, while in my original form, I can use magic to my heart's content. How interesting. Naruto turned to the group. What do you all think about my new form? Everyone bowed and smiled at their ruler. Shaltier spoke with a blush on her face. Beauty incarnate, master, you radiate power that is out of this world even in this form. You might look human, but in truth you are more than that, and we shall always remember that fact. Coitus was next. Your form speaks of a great warrior and power. Your instinct in this form is second to none, and you are truly worth praise. Aura and her brother both shared the same opinion, but Aura spoke for both of them. Even in this state we know you are a true supreme being, and that is all that matters to me and my brother. Zessie smiled. It doesn't matter to me, my lord, you are the truest form of power, and even in that state, I would be pleased with any child we have. Albedo snarled at her. Yes, minus her having your child, your form does not deceive me, and I know that you take this form to please all of us, and that is more than anything I could dream for. The rest of the room was sharing the same opinion, and soon Naruto was pleased, showing them his new eyes when they shifted to having rings with tomos in them. This power, with it there is no one in the elemental nations that can stop me. Naruto laughed for a bit before coughing into his hand, and he looked at his followers. Now we get down to business. Everyone who is not on assignment is to work around the clock to prepare our defenses and prevent intruders from reaching the inner sanctum of the tomb. For assignments I want Shaltier and Beta to head out to Wave and help them with their problem. From what Kami gave me in my memories after cutting off their trade with them, they are invading the country to try and pick up the economy. They killed a man named Tazuna and are going to kill his family. Both of you are to head there and slaughter anyone who is a shinobi Konoha and save the people of Wave. Doing so, make sure that if there is anyone of great value or power to bring them into the fold as one of your brides. Is that clear? Shaltier smiled. Of course I shall head out now, my lord. Come, Beta. The dark-skinned maid smiled. Yes ma'am, let's go have some fun. Both were out the door, and Naruto turned to the rest of the room. The rest of you stay here and plan defenses like I asked before. Albedo, you are with me. We are going to find my dear friend Gaara and show him a new power is in play in this world. Of course, Lord Ainz. Ainz turned to her. While we are out in the world you shall only refer to me as Menma, is that clear? She nodded her head, and without a second to wait, she turned into her dark armor form and had her war axe in hand. Let's move. Naruto opened a kamui hole and sucked them both into it. Appearing in the desert lands, they quickly headed to the village of Suna, where they saw there was smoke coming from many of the buildings. Halt. Turning his head, he saw 2 gate guards, one he recognized as Baki. State your name and business at this time. Menma smiled. I'm sorry to come at a bad time, but I was here to find a man named Gaara. A friend of mine sent me to deliver a message to him. May I ask what happened? Yes, well, Gaara has been kidnapped, so the village is a panic at the loss of our Akatsuki. I see, then he must be trusted to be a leader at his age. Do you know who took him? Yes, we know it is the Akatsuki, but we don't have the means to go after them at this moment. Yes, that is why they called elites like us to help their worthless asses. Turning his head, Naruto saw a group of people he didn't want to see ever again until he was murdering them. Standing there was the arrogant Sasuke Uchiha, was radiating the power of a Chunin, but nothing that was special. He would put him on par with Clementine, and that was being nice. She would slaughter this fool with ease, and that was something to consider as a compliment to the girl. While she was a much, he was at least superior to this fool and his team. Without a chance, they'd be slaughtered and treated like pointless torture dolls or zombies in the end. Yeah, Sasuke is here to show them what a real shinobi is, so get lost, loser. Behind him was a pink-hair girl known as Sakura, and Ainz could only sigh. This was Sat. Her power was barely that of a Chunin at this point, and she was supposedly trained by Tsunade at one time. Meaning she was to be her student, but she was only a Chunin, meaning she was slacking in her training as a whole. From there, he saw Kakashi, who was ignoring the proceedings and was reading his book while eyeing Albedo. He hated this man more than anyone, considering he was the reason that he died in the first place. From what he gathered of the memories of Kami, he was hailed as a hero, but after telling Sasuke he killed his best friend, it failed to unlock the next stage of his eyes, so he was cheated out of that. He then started training him to his heart's content, and Jiraiya even pitched in, but the minute the Rasengan was taught, Naruto knew that this fool was being primed for Hokage. He would kill him and everyone else before he would let them have the notes of his parents or his father's moves. But from Kami he was informed that they were in the hands of the Toads, and they refused to hand them over, with the threat of crushing Konoha as a whole if they tried to bully them. The slugs supported them and cut Tsunade off in anger of what she did to her godson and the child of Kushina, who was also another summoner of theirs, if only able to summon minor members of the clan. Finally, there was a pale-skinned boy who was smiling fake at him. Naruto knew that he was a root ninja for Danzo, and he was going to eliminate him soon if the chance arose. Albedo was angry about how this girl was talking to her master and was about to flare her power, but Naruto shook his head at her. Whatever, I have no time to waste with trash that is surrounding me at this point. Baki-san, do you have anything of Gaara that might be able to help me track him? The man nodded his head and brought him his hat. Naruto examined it and used his newfound chakra senses and smiled. I see they have him in a cave a little bit away from here. Rest assured I shall bring your leader back. Oh, and take this. Naruto handed him a red potion that was made from his blood. Give this to Kankuro, and it should heal him from his poisoning. I heard rumors on the way here that he ran into someone that was a dangerous poison user, so I thought I might as well give you this. Baki was questioning the vial, but figured it wouldn't hurt to try it and then bring the Konoha shinobi it in case they are needed. We will be off. Come Albedo, let's get moving. Within a split second both were gone in a blur, kicking up sand as they were moving, and this shocked everyone, wondering how they gained such speed. Sasuke was jealous and would demand answers about how to gain the same speed himself. Sakura thought Sasuke could do the same thing. Kakashi was concerned that there was someone faster than Guy and was going to report this Konoha, and Sai was going to report this to Danzo and tell him his find about the two unknowns. Cave. Naruto saw the cave and saw the stone that was sealing the entrance to the room they were doing the sealing. Interesting, a high-quality seal no doubt, but nothing I can't deal with. With a single punch, he destroyed the entire boulder and entered the dust-filled room. In it, Naruto saw a blonde-haired man with a metal-like eye and his hair covering that eye, sitting next to a red-haired man that was giving off the feeling of someone who was not even alive anymore. Interesting, this is where Gaara was taken. The blonde glared. Who the hell are you, HN? Naruto smiled. Greetings, foolish mortals, my name is Menma, but that is neither here nor there. I shall give you this one time to surrender and hand over my friend there. Otherwise, I can promise that you will all die by my hands. This is me being generous. He was hit with an explosive clay spider. Ha! Take that, fool HN. That is what you get for talking down to superiors. Sasori smiled at the childish display until he saw the smoke disappear. They and the holograms were shocked to see the intruder still standing without a single scratch on his body and only having some minor disturbances to his clothes. Well, that is your answer? Albedo, take the clay user, I'll deal with the puppet user. Yes, Lord Menma. The dark-armored woman quickly twirled her axe around and closed the distance between her and the blonde bomber. What the fuck? He was cut in half, but his body dissolved into clay, causing it to explode. He appeared on the far side of the cave. Ha! Bitch fell for the basics. Not so damn great are you, armored bitch. He felt a kick to the back of his head, sending him back to the ground. Turning up, he saw that the armored woman was standing there without a scratch on her armor. How? She had no time to move, so how did she avoid the explosion? Albedo quickly closed the distance again and swung her axe to cut him in half again, but he quickly moved out of the way. From there he started throwing out multiple explosive attacks. Each tried to reach her and kill her, but she was just weaving away from the explosions and sending them back at him, forcing him to keep moving. You stand no chance, human. You trying to fight me is a waste of time and something you should consider stopping. No. I won't lose to some whore in armor. The eye slits glowed gold, scaring the piss out of the rest of the room, and this led to the ring-eyed projection saying, "We failed for now, but we will get the other tailed beast and the one tail soon." Deidara didn't know how, but he was not going to let the leader see him failing at this point. So without hesitation, he summoned a clay dragon in the cave and had it attack her, but the minute it got close to her, she decided to stop toying with him. Flaring out her aura of magic, she forced the dragon to dissolve harmlessly, thus allowing her to move in for the kill again. But this time he was out of chakra, wasting it on the attacks before this. So she cut his head off. Huh, what do you know? Death is a piece of art like a bang, it's only for a second. He smiled before his skull was crushed underneath Albedo's boot. Worthless bug, should have known going against me was futile and died like the bug he was. Turning her head, she saw her master was not struggling as much as she did with her opponent. She was used to magic and armor and melee users that were straightforward fighters, not this. This would take some time to get used to in her mind. Naruto, on the other hand, was dealing with Sasori to the point that he revealed himself as a human puppet himself. Naruto couldn't care less about this and quickly cut down the rest of his puppets with ease before piercing his heart. It would seem that you are stronger than I thought. Allow me to tell you this much, Orochimaru's spy is coming to meet me in a few days. Beware, because he might not be as loyal as I once believed. The man collapsed to the ground and Naruto snorted. I have no interest in the snake. He will be dealt with, but only after I'm done with everything else to prepare for my battle with him. Naruto turned to Albedo, seeing the dead bomber. Bring the puppet user's body and the bodies of his puppets back to the tomb. We might find some use of them. Of course, I shall take care of this right now. Ainz smiled. I appreciate it, Albedo. The woman went into a frantic mode. Thank you, my lord. Your praise is valued for someone like me. Please let me know if you are wanting to reward me later with your new body. Naruto sweat dropped at her going off in her world. Yeah, once again she is off in her world, great. Naruto, seeing her dreaming of all they were going to do in the future, shifted his attention to Gaara, but he noticed his seal had weakened, so he turned it into his skeletal form. He cast a diagnosis on him and saw that the seal was weakened, and neither he nor the Biju were going to survive if something wasn't done. Albedo stand back. Pulling herself out of her dreams, she saw him in his skeletal form, and he was casting some kind of ritual on the hair body, and without warning the entire cave filled with a bright light. Seal fusion. Once the light and magic disappeared, she saw that the red-haired teen had a tail now and even had small ears on his head. Ainz sighed. That was a spell that I found from one of the ancient texts in the tomb years ago that allows a person to fuse two different elements if the seal is weak enough and the bond is strong. Turning to Albedo, he continued, in his current state he is the one-tailed demon and on par with most of the Biju now. But he will be out for a couple of hours. I shall stay here until he has recovered, but until then head back to the tomb, would you? We need to drop the bodies off before people come looking for them. As you command, my lord. With Albedo leaving through a gate, he was sitting there waiting for his friend to wake up. Wave. The once prosperous trading nation was now under siege. The Hidden Leaf village launched a full war assault on the village, and not only did they take the place over, they renamed the bridge of their great savior, and even killed their bridge builder Tazuna, and were planning on killing his family. From there they had flags of the Senju, Konoha, and Uchiha flying over the side of the bridge. The two eternal gate guards were sitting there bored out of their minds. Well, the invasion went well. Kotsu sighed. Yeah, but at least we get to change this village for the better, and having the name of the bridge turned into the Great Konoha Bridge has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? His friend nodded his head. They never liked Naruto, so why should they leave something on Earth with his name on it? But they both saw someone approaching the gate that was built to keep the village sealed off at the bridge. It was a small girl with large breasts wearing a red dress with a red hat on her head with bright red eyes with slits. Next to her was a tan-skinned girl with golden eyes and wearing a very sexy maid outfit. But the girl in the red dress was carrying an umbrella in her hands with a small smile on her face. Halt! Kotsu had orders to prevent anyone from entering the village, so these two would be turned away or they would be killed. But that made him wonder where the guards on the other side of the bridge were, or if they did something to them. Shaltier, seeing the gate guardians, could see there was nothing special about them and found them disgusting for the most part. Beta, deal with them please, I rather not waste my time. Yes, Lady Shaltier. Without warning, both men were standing in front of the woman in the maid outfit before finding her swinging a large scepter-like weapon in her hands and cutting their heads off with a single swing. They realized they died only when their heads hit the ground. Oh, they died too quick. I thought Lord Naruto said these beings were stronger than this. There are some in the village that I can sense that are stronger than these two. Beta kills the ones in the crowd and those that dare to come near me. My brides will deal with the rest of either killing or capturing the ones that resist us or try to run. While I deal with the leaders of the group. Yes, Lady Shaltier. She gave a bright smile, while two pale dark-eyed women appeared next to Shaltier with large breasts. Inside the village, the town was gathered in a huddle to watch as the head of the shinobi attacking their village was going to kill more of their people. Yash, now that we have freed this village from the demon's taint, we can now teach them the new youthful ways. Easily, these people would never dare utter that monster's name again in our presence if they know what is good for them. Troublesome, this was easy thanks to us sneaking across the bridge and killing the samurai here. But I fear what the repercussions will be, considering they were workers from the land of iron, and Mifune is not one to be trifled with. Nothing to worry about, Nara, it was their fate to fall today, and the rest of the world will see they will fall to us as well. Out of the group came a man with a scar over his nose, standing next to a purple-hair Anbu with a cat mask on her face, and they both had Tsunami and Inari on their knees. Inari was beaten and swollen, but he was glaring them down. Anything you want to say, prisoner, before your death? Inari looked him in the face and spit in it. Yeah, I will see you in hell, traitorous cunt. Iruka snarled. Can't do it. Tsunami screamed. No, please. Before her sword could touch, she found it stopped by someone standing next to the child. Humans are such simple creatures. Do you think that because you invade a trading nation that you are stronger? Ha! I find it hilarious that you pick on the weak to make some form of strength of your own. Identify yourself and why you're interfering in the affairs of Konoha. Shaltier turned to Iruka and knew from Naruto and some of the information that this man was once a brother figure to her lord, but he betrayed that trust when he wanted to kill him. So she was given strict orders to torture this fool and then kill him, knowing that Lord Ainz got the last laugh in the end. Well, fool, my name is Shaltier, a servant of Lord Ainz, the one true ruler of this world. He is a supreme being born out of this world and feared by the gods. You see, I was sent here by his orders to deal with the trash in this country. I was hoping you would be stronger, but it would seem I had unrealistic hope. Two women appeared at her side and quickly started moving to the cat wearing Anbu and her squad. They cut down Monkey and Boar before they could move, and when Snake came behind them, they quickly slammed their hand into his chest, killing him. Soon the shinobi in the crowd heard a scream, turning to see a maid with a scepter weapon cutting down their men. Well, it looks like I get to have some fun. She gained a sadistic look in her eyes and quickly charged, don't disappoint me. Shikamaru, one of the leading officers in this mission, couldn't believe it. In seconds their forces were getting slaughtered by 4 people. The red-dressed one was the leader, and the others were followers of some sort. They needed to deal with the situation, but they were not sure how. That was when the red-dressed girl stopped Iruka from stabbing her with a kunai by lengthening of the nail on her pinky finger and deflecting the blade. She yawned into her opposite hand and turned to the man. Is that all you have? How disappointing, I thought your shinobi were better than this. I guess the reports were wrong then. Humans are bugs after all. She smiled cruelly, and after knocking the kunai away again, she quickly ripped his arm off. Blood splattered everywhere, and this led to her punching him in the gut, sending him to the ground. He was spitting up blood and bleeding from his wound as well. She smiled. How enjoyable. Now you know your place, bug. Before you die, I want you to hear this. She leaned down and whispered into his ear where only he could hear. Naruto-sama always gets even, fool. No, you died a traitor. Without a chance for him to respond, she stomped on his head, causing to explode in a puddle of gore. Iruka. Kat tried to go and save him or try to get revenge against the girl, but the 2 women facing her were stronger than her. They quickly disarmed her and forced her down her knees to watch the carnage of the village. Shaltier, finishing with the foolish former schoolteacher, turned her head to the rest of the shinobi standing, Team 9 and Shikamaru. This was considered a group of friends at one time, and she knew that her master wanted to kill them personally, but he didn't say they couldn't die here in wave. So going on this instinct, she approached him with a smile on her face. So who is going to try me next? Lee, not waiting for the charge. You will pay for killing my ally. Leaf Hurricane. She blocked the kick with ease before grabbing his ankle and throwing him back to his friends. He landed on his hands and feet, growling at her. She was strong, almost as strong as Guy, but he was sure he was better. Tenten quickly started her assault, throwing kunai and shurikens at her, but she was deflecting with her pinky finger, and a bored expression appeared on her face. Is this really all you got? Throwing weapons, how weak, no wonder you are a joke among weapon users. This enraged Tenten, but Niji was in position, and Shikamaru was already ready. Yeah, but it was good distraction. Kajimajutsu successful. Now Niji. The boy charged at her and hit her in the throat, the forehead and heart. Now fall. No, it was destiny that favored me today. But she didn't fall, but she yawned. So that is it? Holding me in place while you charge in to strike me in the chest. Shaltier started walking to Niji, while Shikamaru was shocked she was not even trapped in place to begin with. Niji quickly tried to react by throwing more strikes at her body, but she was deflecting them with ease. From there, she managed to get inside his range and slam her fist into his stomach, forcing him off the ground. But Titan reacted and threw another kunai that exploded, covering the area in bright light. During this moment, Lee took his friend and brought him to his side. Shaltier yawned again. Come on, please tell me you have more than that. Honestly, I'm not even using my real power yet, and this is boring me to sleep. You know what? I'm going to deal with you now and be done. She was walking up to them until she saw some kunai and shuriken hit near her feet. Looking up, she saw that several chunin and jounin had appeared at this moment. Team leader Shikamaru, Nara, run, take your allies and run back to Konoha. Are you insane? You all will die. Yes, but Konoha must know about this future threat, and that is enough for our sacrifice to mean something. Shaltier was bored to tears at this point and finally at her breaking point. You know what, fuck this. I'm done messing around. With that, a dark red aura formed around her body, and she gained a dark evil presence that put the fear of God in the rest of the shinobi there. Within seconds, Shikamaru made the call. Let's go, we need to get back. They leapt over the buildings while the remaining jounin and chunin tried valiantly to kill the monsters attacking their people who were trying to save this disillusioned country. Sadly, this was all for naught as they were slaughtered with ease, and Shaltier was growling at the remains. Not even worth the fucking effort. Beta, who is left? The werewolf smiled. Well, the villagers are safe, but we have this one that is left. She is the strongest of the group, and it seems that she holds no hatred. Turning her head, she examined the purple-haired woman and saw that there was no hate for her master. I see. What is your name? I'll never tell you. Shaltier smiled. Well, I guess it doesn't matter if you did or not, this was going to happen either way. Without warning, she bit her neck and soon drained the blood from her body while pouring her power into her body. Within seconds, the woman lost her skin color and now was a purple hair, red eye, vampire bride. Welcome to the family. She turned her head and shouted. People of Wave know this. You are free from the horror that is Konoha, and know the world will know about this treachery. From this point on, you serve under the rule of Lord Ainz on Gaon. The people were confused, but they figured better them than the Konoha shinobi. All hail Lord Ainz. The people started chanting this, and Shaltier smiled. This new world has such delectable humans to feast on. I hope my lord lets me kill some more soon. Soon this world, just like all other worlds, will belong to my beloved master. Within a few hours, the word spread of the massacre of Wave, and the flag of Ainz Gaon was hanging high in the sky, showing a new superpower was in play.